Hey, thanks for the update and all the videos. Um, you sent a lot of videos, and I want to do this video response, but I don't want it to be like 30 minutes long, so I tried to download just the heavy ones from Friday and Saturday, and we'll just go over those. And then if there's any issues beyond that, then we can always discuss the ones from the beginning of the week. But I want to try and hit obviously the heaviest weights, the most important weights, to review that, and then build the next block based on those. So we'll go from this one. I think it is the first one of your video that you sent, and we'll go through all the ones that you sent for Friday and Saturday for the heavy squat, bench, and deadlift. So here is the heavy squat. If the heeled shoes feel good, just stick with the heeled shoes for the next month, and we'll just wear that in the competition and go with it. So here on rack looks good. This step right here looks good. And then you set up your next foot, boom, you're set, ready to go, not wasting any energy. Let's take a look at the actual squat. So the squat looks good. As far as depth, let me see if I can kind of pause it right in the bottom. Let's see if I can go back a little bit. So it looks close. What I would say to be sure is, if you can, is try and go down a little bit slower and sit back a little bit more. So what you're doing here is you're going as far as you can, as far as pushing the knees forward and as far as the ankles can bend before you hit the end range of motion. And then kind of your hips get stuck, and that's your depth. And you can actually see the bars kind of forward because the knees are going so forward and you're going down so fast. And so it looks a little bit questionable. It's hard to tell with these shorts, but you may be like right at parallel or maybe just below. So it's really close. What you can do is, if you can kind of test it out this week and see if you can kind of figure it out. I know it's close to competition, so you kind of have to like figure it out quick. Is here. So you're pushing your butt back first, is trying to push it back more a little bit and not let the knees go forward as much, so that you can kind of sit down more. The other option is, if you want to test out other things in your next session for your first day squats of the week, so this will be easier, is maybe move your stance out just a little bit. So if you move your stance a little bit wider, then it kind of gives you more space to sit down in, and your hips can drop down more. Let's take a look at it one more time. But as far as the speed, that looked really good. When you get to the top, you want to make sure you kind of bring your hips through. So right now your hips are back, and then the hips are here, still back, and then your torso is kind of leaned over. So what you want to do is kind of squeeze your butt, bring your hips through, and make sure you stand upright. So in the rules, you have to be upright at the beginning, at the end. If you're leaned over too much and the judges feel that you're not upright, you're leaned over too much, then you'll get a red. So here you want to make sure, like, the lift is already done, so you just want to make sure you squeeze your butt and get upright where you're more like 12 o'clock. Even if it's like a little bit like 1 o'clock, it's fine, but you don't want to be so much where like 2 o'clock or even like 3 o'clock, and then that's considered not upright. All right, but speed looked good. Let's take a look at the next video. There we go. Walkout looked good on this one too. And speed on these look good too. Just got to work on that depth. The depth might feel different just because you switch from the flat shoes to the heel shoes, so it might feel different as far as what your body feels like, your hips feel like, everything torso feels like in the bottom position, and the flats versus the heels. So it might just take some practice to get that last little dip here. So here you just want to get a little dip of the hips. And if you can't get it, then it would come from either sitting back a little bit more, so you're not hitting the end range of motion, as we said here, of your ankles with the knees going forward, or going slightly wider in your stance so you can sit down more. You look more upright, and these are your lockout. You can see you're a little bit more upright. So those look good. We'll go to the next video. Workout look good on those as well. So more of the same. Walkout look good, speed look good. We just gotta possibly work on the depth a little bit, just to be sure, especially for that first attempt in the competition. It's a national championship. You have national, international referees out there. You want to make sure that first one is a little bit deeper, just to be sure you get it in, and you don't want to kind of get like miss your first attempt at the competition and kind of get stuck. So you want to start on a good note. Make sure you get that first one in nice and deep, dropping this hip down just a little bit lower. Get that first one in, and then we can go from there. So that one looked good too. Let me see if I can find a bench or deadlift so we can go over those as well. Here we go. Here's the deadlift. Let's take a look at those. I think overall this block or deadlift is looking better because I think you might have gone like too wide with your stance previously, and it was just making you much slower off the ground, and it felt weird. And now you got your stance back to where you used to start at, and it looks better. So here, looks good. Knees are in line with the toes. Hips are higher than the knees. Shoulders are higher than the hips. Arms are straight. Back is straight. Everything looks good. If we want to nitpick, all we can do is try and maybe get the head pointed down a little bit instead of cranking the neck back too much. You don't want to cause any kind of neck issues or upper back issues. But other than that, everything here looks good. Let's take a look at the speed one more time. Speed looked good, a little slow off the ground, but that's how it is with sumo. And then obviously speed up into lockout as long as you stay in position. So that one looked good. Let's take a look at another deadlift video. So this one looked nice and easy. No issues there. Strong lockout. Let's take a look at another one. So this looks like to be a really good position for you where you can use your hamstrings, glutes, and lower back instead of going super wide and trying to use more of the quads and like inner groin. Well, that's like a really good position for you where you're a little bit faster off the ground and then you still have an easy lockout. Let's take a look at another one. Looks like you're getting your hip position down here where your hips aren't shooting up anymore. They're just staying in position right there until the bar breaks the ground and then just exploding to lockout. So everything looks good there. Let's see if we can find a bench press. Here we go. Let's take a look at this bench press. So this looks like a good starting position. Head, shoulders, and butt are down on the bench. Feet are flat on the ground. Knees are lower than the hips, so it's very low probability that your butt will come off the ground, off the bench, excuse me. And then you have a nice big arch here, and bar is over the wrists and over the shoulder blades. So this is a good starting position. And we discussed this before, how right here you can see this right foot is further back than the left one. So you just got to continue focusing on doing your stretches for your hips, especially the left side. So doing the couch stretch or pigeon stretch or sitting in the bottom of Bulgarian split squat, whatever will stretch out these hip flexors and lower abs, especially on the left side, so we can kind of get this even. Rep itself looked really good. Nice long pause in the chest. And easy press back over the shoulders. That looked really easy. Let's take a look at one of your other sets where you're doing some reps. Look like a good pause and a good press. That one looked good as well. Let's take a look at another one. That'll look good too. So all these are looking good. Let's take a look at the last set. Like I said, I don't want to make this video too long for you, waste your time watching it for 30 minutes. That look good. So overall, all the videos look really solid. For squat, the only thing I want you to try out for the first day back this week is see if you can get a little bit lower. And the two ways you can try to get a little bit lower: one, trying to sit back a little bit more with your hips and not let your knees go as forward as much, and kind of get that little dip with the hips down to hit depth. And if that's not feels like it's not working, or it feels weird or anything like that, you can try widening your stance just a little bit. Could be just like half an inch or 1 inch on each foot out wider. That way, when you push your knees out and sit down, you have a little bit more space to sit down so you can hit the depth. For bench, everything looked good. We're just continuing to work on stretching out that left hip to try and get that left foot back the same as the right foot, so we get a little bit of balance. And then for deadlift, everything looked good on deadlift. Keep doing what you're doing. Just going over your email. Like I said, if you prefer the heels and that feels good, then stick with that and just do that for every session now until Raw Nationals, and to use the heels in Raw Nationals. We got the practice going now for 5 or 6 weeks, and then after Raw Nationals, if you want to mess around with anything else, that would be the time to do it. Yep, bench is feeling better and better. Deadlift feels much better. Like I said, deadlift is going perfect. Keep doing what you're doing. Just try and avoid not killing your hands. Going back up here, as far as your body weight, as far as needing more instruction, it's hard to know exactly what to give you as far as calories and macros, because I don't know what you've been hitting. If you kind of have an idea, aside from your body weight, if you know what kind of calories you're hitting or what kind of macros you're hitting, and you have previous data that we can build off of, then we can create a plan for you to adjust those to get to where the weight we need to. If you don't have the plan, then you need to go ahead and track one day. Let's say just pick Monday, eat your regular food, and track it and see what we're hitting. And then the other option would just be you have to kind of just go off of your own instinct and eyeball it, as far as eating when you're hungry, and not eating when you're like just bored or whatever like that, and then doing the cardio and the lifting weights, and your weight will start dropping. As you can see here, you went from 134, 133s, and then you hit a 132.4 and a 132.8. So you are slowly trending downwards. And if you continue doing that, you will do it that way. Obviously, the most efficient way, though, is if we have some previous data, or if you do a data point collection on Monday to figure out what kind of calories and macros you're hitting, so we can base off of that what adjustments to make. Because I'm not experienced enough in this. I'm not a nutritionist or a dietitian to just know based off of like your height and your weight what calories and macros you need to hit. There are some calculators you can look online. If you just like do a macro calculator, you can find ones on Google that you can put in information and they'll give you an estimate. But again, it's not perfect for you and your scenario, but you can go and do it with your age, your gender, your weight, your height, activity level. But again, you're guessing on your activity level how much is training and doing some cardio, and see what it tells you. But again, it's not perfect, but at least it'll give you an idea. But I'm not experienced enough, like I said, to just kind of know based off of you what exactly to hit. So if we have some data points, that will help. It would be good if we can get down to, if you can get down to, let me just do a calculation here real quick. 3% of the weight class, so 57 times 3% plus 57. If we can get down to 58.71, which is about 129 and a half, let's say. If you can get down to 129 and a half or lower by the week of Raw Nationals, then we can just water cut the rest of the weight. And 3% water cut is doable with just cutting out water and food and maybe doing a hot bath. pushing a little bit more would be 5%. So that would be a little bit harder, but it is still doable for 2 hours. So about 132 or lower, which is kind of close to where you are now. So 132 or lower would be a little bit more of a difficult cut. You'd have to do maybe an hour or 2 hours of going back and forth doing hot baths or sauna or something like that to cut the weight, but it is still doable. But if we can get down to that 129.5 or lower, then it'll be less time cutting, a little bit easier. So you still have a month to do that. The other option is if it's bothering you and don't have the motivation and you're focused on school and all that stuff like that, and you can't do it, is that we just move up a weight class and we go up to the 63 kilo weight class and just compete there. And it's not the end of the world. You've only done one push-pull meet and two full power meets, and they're all local meets. So this would be your first national meet, and it'll be really about like building your experience, competing, building experience, meeting the other lifters, making friends, having a good time, making lifts. So if you did have to compete at 63s or your first nationals, that'd be fine. We always have next year in Chicago again as a junior. Since you only turned 21 this year, you still have next year as a junior to still make the team for 2020. And you can always get down to 57s with that once you've got more meets underneath you and more experience. So that'd be another option, is just to go in at whatever weight you are now, 133, and just compete in the 138s and not have to deal with cutting weight for this next month and then doing the water cut as well. So you got a lot of different options. It just depends on what you want to do and what you want to deal with for the next month with school and lifting and cardio and nutrition and all that stuff. All right, so you are just finished week 4 of this block. So I'm going to work on the next block, which will cover the 3 more weeks of heavy training and then a lighter week before Raw Nationals, and then I'll send that all over to you. Okay, and then you can get started with your next week. All right, hope that helps.